All right, today I wanted to talk about Andor, which is a story, a prequel to Rogue One, and a story, another one of these TV spin-offs from the Star Wars universe. And the interesting thing about Andor is so far I have seen episode 1. I'm definitely going to be watching more because it is fantastic. It is amazing to see what good characters, intrigue, smart, all of this, anything like that, where it comes into fruition from there. So, yeah, what we're going to do is we're going to watch kind of what I would say the clinch, the hook scene that really pulls the audience in to get deeper into the story, and we're going to watch that, and then we will continue from there.
Stop right there! You're in Primo Corporate Zone, you know that, right? Employees are required to present their IDs upon request.
Oh, then you didn't park out past the causeway, did you?
Sure hope not. That's off limit to visitors. We'd have to fine you.
Yeah, I mean, you know about the visitors curfew, right?
Yeah, we'd have to impound your ride.
Tough break.
Why have you swam over? You swim over, Scrono. Nah, he's not laughing anymore.
If you've got Corpo ID, now would be the time to pull it out.
We'll have to see it, big stuff. There you go.
I got 300 credits in my coat pocket.
Wow. What are the chances on that? That is almost exactly what it costs to cover the fine, the tow in charge, and our personal processing fee.
Everybody's lucky night.
Let's have a look at it.
I'm not moving. You wanted, you take it, and I walk away. I don't need any surprises.
Oh, that's it.
Oh, the pocket.
Tell me now! Tell me what to do! Let's hear it, boss! Get up! Get him up! Get him up! Move!
He's not breathing.
No.
Furlough! Furlough!
He's faking!
He's not! Furlough! He didn't mean it. He fell. We had a misunderstanding and we're going together. We played too hard and you didn't understand and he tried to grab you and he fell and he hit his head. We're going together. I'll tell them what happened.
All right, so this scene needs a slight amount of backstory to kind of tell you how we got here. That's pretty early on in the TV show that this scene comes into play, but essentially the previous lead-up steps is we have our mysterious, brooding character, Cassian. There we go. And he enters a abode or a place of business, which gives off the, sort of sci-fi ill repute sort of vibes from there, as you can very clearly begin to understand that this is some sort of brothel or casino, some sketchy place. It's a sketchy place. Even though it is fancy, it's very sketchy. He's there, he calls over the lady with the flat hair, Again, I don't really understand all the haircuts in Star Wars, but this one was kind of funny. From there, it's like she had cardboard over it. It was very, her hair minus the flat part was there, and then there she was. She had a nice face and some eyes, a nose, and then that ears. There we go. She was actually seemed fairly nice, but she had a flat head. So there we go. And he's asking her, he's looking for something. And as he's talking to her, there's two gentlemen who are seated over at the bar, and they're kind of off on their own, and they are quite miffed that this lady who's kind of I don't know if you call her the manager or the front desk lady or something like that, to greet people, kind of help find them what they're looking for from this place of ill repute and they're over here drinking. And as our buddy, our main character here, who at this point is not named, is talking to her, these two fellas are like, hey, stop ignoring us. Go ignore that guy. And then it's very quickly becomes abusive, where they're like very aggressive sorts of fellows. And you don't really know exactly who they are, some sort of thugs or whatnot, but they are trying to pick a fight either with her or more importantly, with this guy, because they feel that they are being ignored by talking to him. Cassian just simply ignores them and continues on. He keeps asking questions about it, and she's just like, yep, he's looking for a girl who's here some time ago from some planet, and she doesn't have any information because she left, and no one uses real names, so there's no name to be left behind for anyone else to find. And so then our main character, our dear Cassian, leaves the place. He exits from here, and he's walking along, and it turns out then somebody's shouting from behind him. It is a very familiar voice, and this is where we come to the scene that we just watched, where you have these two thugs, which are some sort of security, police sorts of types. It's explained a little bit later, but in the initial part, we don't really know exactly which of it is. It could be all three of these, to be honest. There's not really, depending on the type of character you're dealing with, there's not always a huge difference between it, because if they're corrupt all the way up, it doesn't really matter if they're like legitimate or not, quote unquote. And they pull him aside, and this is the reason why I call this a hook scene, because what it is, as I've said before, you have a show that is good, because the people who watched it felt good when they saw it. And so what you have happen, though, is good is actually, as you might imagine, it's pretty vague. And what actually good means can be broken down. You have to go down pretty deep down the pyramid in order to find out actually what that means. So what you might have is good characters. And then we've got good plot. It's a mystery, got good mystery. All right. And you've got this going on. And it's like, actually, this is all pretty vague as well. And then you go down a little bit further. And what you have over here is maybe you'll have smart characters who do X, Y, Z in a given situation. And then you have intrigues. We want to know who is the girl, who's going on. We're trying to figure out all the answers to these questions. We want to know what the character is after. He's asking after this girl, and we don't know why. And this is kind of, I think the flathead over here even asks him at a point, why are you looking for her? And it kind of asks the question for the audience to try and figure out, okay, why is he doing this? And all of this is doing the most important thing for any scene, which it makes you want to see what happens next. Because if you make it to this point where you want to see what happens next, that is the key moment where you can see what is going on from there. And so from here, you have this whole situation. You have another one, maybe even layer, because this is fairly bland, but then we'll go down to more specific for a character who will shoot when necessary, when it's smart. Let's put it there. Smart. Because what we have here is we have a whole bunch of characters acting intelligently. And this is kind of the interesting thing that you do, is because most of the time you'll have a dirty, rotten thug. You know, we'll have a dirty, rotten thug over here. And they will pick a fight with the hero or something like that. And let's just say this person's intelligence capability, we'll call this the capability meter. All right. And the capability meter is how good they are at their job, how good they are, you know, how much should you watch out for them? You know, does the music change when they walk in because they're just that bad? You know, minor key. From there, and let's just say that, you know, you have 1, 0, 1, and a 2, and a 3 or something like that. And you can assign anything. These are all just arbitrary numbers. But let's just say this is a capability of 1. And we're kind of, as the audience, as you're watching, you're sizing them up. Because you want to know, as they pick a fight with the hero, who's over here, we're wanting to know what we would do in the same situation. That's what we're asking as an audience member. We're looking to see what the character does, but we're also wanting to know what we would do. The scenes don't last quick. We usually aren't quick thinking enough, and we're constantly, you know, playing out the trails of what ifs, and that from there. And then the characters act, and we get to see for them, and we get to judge them on whether or not they made good decisions or not. And so what happens is when you have a character who makes a specific decision, you're judging them. You're judging them to see how it is. And what we're doing is we're sizing up these two characters. Who's making the better decision? Who's more capable in this instance? Because let's say if this guy is a 1 and our hero, they fight or something, and this guy is the winner from there, then he's got to be a 2 or a 3. And this is what you're communicating to the audience. You're communicating this sort of understanding of how intelligent the characters are going to be. This is something that some of the other Star Wars shows, Rings of Power is one that really failed in this one, where it's like, wait a minute, why'd she jump off the boat? You know, that seems really silly. Why would you dive off of a boat when you're surrounded by water for miles and miles and miles and miles and miles from there? That's a dumb decision. You know, why would in Star Wars Episode 8, there were the 2 fighter pilots, Finn and his little lady friend, I can't remember her name. They're flying their ships, you know, the sand duster things along that cool looking planet, and it would kick up the smoke in the back. And she crashes her ship into his ship to save him. That was all of that was dumb. And what you're communicating is how smart the story is going to be. How smart is everyone else going to be from here? So this is the reason why, you know, they always say the old cliche is that the hero is made by the villain. The hero is only as great as the villain is. Because what it is if you have an amazing villain who's like an 8, and you defeat him, then our hero's got to be a 9 or more or something like that. You know, you have this sort of element going on. This is the reason why the heroes that go up against the greater the villain makes themselves all that much greater. And so what we have here is we don't have an amazing villain. We just have a regular thug. But it doesn't mean that we can't have him be smart. We can't have him be intelligent, trying to think through it out. So what happens is, in the scene, obviously, you can almost see there's the understanding. The audience is called to understand what's going on. So, you know, they try and rob him. He takes the gun, and he's got a gun then pointed at the other, we'll call him Fat Thug 2, or just Thug 2. We'll just call him Thug 2. Thug 2 is sitting over here, and he's like kind of sad because, and he does that annoying thing that certain people do where they're like, oh my gosh, we tried to murder a guy, and he killed us. That makes you a murderer. From there, and they're trying to, you know, have this moral high grounding sort of deal from there. And he's got the gun, and it's pointed straight at his face. And this is Dead Thug. We'll call him Dead Thug 1. And he immediately calls you murdered a policeman, whatever he calls it, something like that. And then he catches himself. Because again, a level, it's really easy to be like, hey, you did it, you screwed up, sort of deal. But now the guy is doing some quick thinking. He really quickly understands that there's no reason. They just tried to kill a guy or rob a guy who killed one of them. Self-defense, the whole shebang. And now he just witnessed a murder. So now he's understanding that Cassian over here should shoot him. And so what does he do? He immediately begins offering up an explanation. And it's cueing the audience because the audience immediately knows where this guy's doing it. And he's trying to make a case. And he's making a pretty good one. He's making a much better one than, oh no, don't shoot me. That is a very weak sort of thing that a character could do, because it's really boring. It's very uncreative. You just tried to rob a guy, beat him up, all this other stuff. From there, you pick the fight. You went looking for trouble and you found it, turns out, from there. And so what do you have? Well, you have a character who could do this, or they scratch it, and what does he do? He begins offering up a plan. This is what could have happened. He fell. It was a misunderstanding. We started it. He fell. And I'll explain everything. I'll explain it away. You don't need to worry about anything. I've got it taken care of from here. And there's this tense moment where we can see Cassian and we're looking to see what he's going to do. And we know it's the brutal decision, but we're pretty sure he's got to shoot the guy because after all, he's the only living witness. He's the only one who's seen what he's doing. And this is this sort of thing where we have a brutal decision that we've got to make from here. What is Cassian going to do? And then he shoots. And he kills the guy. And so what does it do? Well, what we have here is we have an intelligent... The thug, too, was actually smart. He was trying to talk himself out of it. He was trying to do something that would convince the main character, the guy they just tried to rob, they just tried to steal, mug from. They're trying to work with him and trying to come up with an explanation. And this is actually a pretty smart one. And so what are you doing? You're setting up your villain. By setting up your hero, by setting up your villain. Because if your villain is smart and your hero beats him, then he's that much smarter. That's what you want. You want the story, everyone to seem smart from there. And what we have, and this is kind of the beginning scene. This is what starts off. This is the whole beginning scene that's going to play out. And this is going to do its job, which is to draw the audience into the next one, episode 1, the goal of episode 1 is to get you to watch episode 2. In short, that is the end of the story. That's what it needs to do. That's the sole thing it needs to do. And yeah, so far I've just been really, really impressed with it. The whole thing was well acted. There was this great story. Cassian leaves and he goes and meets up with one of his minor friends. And he just comes up to him. And what does he say? He doesn't say, hey, I'm in trouble. I need good alibi for me. This is like level 1 basic boring stuff. What does he say? He goes, hey, we were drinking last night. I was with you. And what is that? It says this. It says all of that. We immediately understand. And his buddy immediately understands. He knows exactly. He's not stupid. And that's what is important. He understands because he's trying to come up with a lie. He's trying to come up with an alibi because he just shot some guards. And so what we have is we have the intrigue building. We have the mystery. And now we have 2 questions that this story is building off of. We have what's going to happen to Cassian. We have this question of Cassian from here. And we care about Cassian. Why do we care about Cassian? Because he's smart. I really, the more and more I've watched stories and kind of thought about it, is I really don't think the audience dislikes people because they're necessarily bad or not. They really dislike them if they're incompetent. This is kind of one thing like with the Your Honor and the judge, the son. I didn't really like the son because the son seemed incompetent. You have someone like Littlefinger, A lot of people really liked Littlefinger. Why? because he was really smart. He was probably the smartest guy on that whole dang continent, and he has a brilliant plan. In the books, he has an amazing plan to get what he wants. He's creepy, he's murderous, he's villainous, he's kind of probably a little bit evil, but he's smart. And that's what really matters the most, usually in terms of from the audience, because the audience can forgive most things, but being incompetent and stupid is usually not one of them. So now we have this question of what happens to Cassian. Is he going to get caught? This mystery. And then, of course, we have the other thing of who is the girl? You know, what's going on? What's going to happen next? Are they going to find her? You have all of these questions brewing up from here. And this is what it's doing. And this is what it keeps building from here. And then the other scene that I really liked from episode 1 was the one where the guard, the police guy who's in charge, who says, you know, he's talking to this sort of a straight-laced sort of security guard. And the boss is basically like, I need you to make up an accident report. We're going to brush this away. And the guy's like, what? How could you do that? And he's like, listen, we're not supposed to have brothels. They were at a brothel. They were not, you know, our security guards are not supposed to be at brothels that aren't supposed to exist. And they were drinking a drink that's supposed to be banned. So let's just sweep this under the rug. Because I really do like it when, I really dislike it when the villains or the antagonists, you know, the police, the cops, whoever's chasing after are somehow this like, you know, perfect force where nothing goes wrong. And it's like, nope, it's full of the same type of people as the heroes. The people with mistakes, the people who do this, that, and the other. And what you have is you have this reality where, hey, let's just sweep it away. You have a lucky break for the hero, potentially. But then you can have it both ways where you have it seem like, listen, the police force has a lot of other problems to deal with rather than this. But then you have the straight-laced guy who just can't leave it up. So you can still have the cops competent and going after them while at the same time here. Because again, you might think, hey, they're covering up. Isn't this incompetence? No, this is actually highly competent because he understands what it means. He's looking at the bigger picture and he doesn't care about, you know, he even explains it, how the thug who died was basically good for nothing. He was honestly there. He probably did them a favor by shooting the guy because nobody liked him. Everybody hated him. He was corrupt, dislikable, the whole shebang from there. And you have all of these things together to kind of build up this initial episode for the show that really can draw you in. So I honestly do not know why all the Star Wars shows don't get the writers from this, because most of them have been pretty horrible. You know, this is something where the Acolyte, you know, could take a few notes from this. You know, because how do you spend, you know, millions of dollars on a show that is that bad? And it's just like, you know, I don't really know, especially when you have these talented people that can actually make a show that is good from there. And that's kind of always the mystery in terms of what Hollywood does in that regard. So, but yeah, that is all I've got. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. I'll see you in the next.